31 of Gangster Granny. Golden Light. The sun had risen, and gray clothes was bathed in golden light. There was dew on the ground, and an unearthly mist made the little row of bungalows look somehow magical. Ah, well, said Granny with a sigh. You better run home now, young Ben, before your parents wake up. They don't care about me, said Ben. Oh, yes, they do, said Granny tentatively, putting her arm around her grandson. They just don't know how to show it. Maybe. Ben yawned the biggest yawn he had ever yawned in his life. Gosh, I'm so tired. Tonight was amazing. It was the most thrilling night of my life, Ben. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, said Granny with a twinkling smile. She took a deep breath. Oh, the joy of being alive. Then her eyes filled with tears. Are you all right, Granny? Said Ben softly. Granny hid her face from her grandson. I'm fine, child. I really am. Her voice wavered with emotion as she spoke. Suddenly, Ben knew something was very wrong. Granny, please, you can tell me. He held her hand in his. Her skin was soft but warm, fragile. Well, said Granny hesitantly, there is one thing I'd lie to you about, dear. Ben had a sinking feeling. What's that? He asked, and he squeezed her hand reassuringly. Well, the doctor gave me my test results last week, and I told you I was fine. That was a lie. I'm not fine. Granny paused for a moment. The truth is, I have cancer. No, no, said Ben with tears in his eyes. He had heard about cancer enough to know it could be deadly serious. Just before you ran into him at the hospital, the doctor gave I'm sorry. Just before you ran into him at the hospital, the doctor told me the cancer, well, is very advanced. How long have you got left? Sputtered Ben. Did they say? He said I wouldn't make Christmas. Ben hugged his granny as tight as he could, willing his body to share his life force with hers. Tears were rolling down his cheeks. It was so unfair. He'd only really gotten to know Granny in the last few weeks, and now he was going to lose her. I don't want you to die. Granny looked at Ben for a moment. None of us are going to live forever, my boy, but I hope you never forget me. Your boring old Granny. You're not boring at all. You're a proper gangster. We very nearly stole the crown jewels, remember? Granny chuckled. Yes, but not a word of that to anyone, please. You could still get in a whole heap of trouble. It would have to remain our little secret. And the Queen's, said Ben. Oh, yes. What a nice old dear she was. I will never forget you, Granny, said Ben. You will forever be in my heart. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, said the old lady. I love you so much, Granny. I love you too, Ben, but you better run along now. I don't want to leave you. That's very sweet of you, dear, but if your mummy and daddy wake up and find you are gone, they are going to be extremely worried about you. They won't. Oh, yes, they will. Now, Ben, please be a good boy. Ben reluctantly rose to his feet. He helped his granny up off the step. Then he held her close and kissed her on the cheek. He didn't mind her hairy chin. In fact, he loved it. He loved the whistle in her hearing aid. He loved that she smelled of cabbage. And most of all, he loved that she blew off whenever without even knowing it. He loved everything about her. Goodbye, he said softly. Goodbye, Ben. Chapter 32, A Family Sandwich. When he finally arrived home, Ben noticed a little brown car was missing from the drive. It was still very early in the morning. Where could his parents have gone at this hour? Nevertheless, he climbed up the drain pipe, through the window, and back into his bedroom. All that clambering was hard work. He was tired after staying up all night, and the wetsuit made him heavier than usual. Ben moved his plumbing weeklies aside so he could hide the wetsuit under his bed. Then, as quickly as he could, he put on his pajamas and climbed into bed. Just as he was about to shut his eyes, he heard the car speed up the drive and the front door open, and then the sound of his mom and dad sobbing uncontrollably. We looked everywhere for him, said Dad, sniffling. I don't know what to do. It was my own stupid fault, added Mom through her tears. We should have never entered him for that dance competition. He must have run away from home. I'll call the police. Yes, yes, we must. We should have done that hours ago. We have to get the whole country out looking for him. Hello, hello, I need the police. Please, it's my son. I can't find him. Ben felt so wretchedly guilty. His parents did care about him after all. Massively. He leapt out of bed, burst open his window door, and ran down the stairs into their arms. Dad dropped the phone. Oh, my boy, said Dad. He hugged Ben tighter than he had ever hugged him before. Mom put her arms around her son, too, until they were one big family sandwich with Ben as a filling. Oh, Ben, thank goodness you came back well, Mom. Where have you been? With Granny, replied Ben, not quite willing to tell the whole truth. She's very ill, he said sadly. But he could see from his parents' faces that it wasn't a surprise to them. Yes, said his dad uncomfortably. I'm afraid that I know, Ben. I just can't believe you didn't tell me. She's my granny. I know, said Dad, and she's my mom, too. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, son, but I didn't want to upset you. Suddenly, Ben could see the pain in his dad's eyes. That's okay, Dad, he said. Me and your mom have been up all night looking everywhere for you, added Dad, as he squeezed his son even tighter. We would never have thought to look for you at your granny's. You always said it was boring. Well, she's not. She's the best granny in the world. Dad smiled. That's sweet, son, but you could still have told us where you were. I'm sorry, after I let you down so badly at the dancing competition, I didn't think you cared about me. Care about you, said Dad, a shocked expression in his face. We love you. We love you so much, Ben, added Mom. You must never think differently. Who cares about a silly dancing competition hosted by TV Flavio Favioli? I'm so proud of you, whatever you do. We both are, said Dad. They were all crying and smiling now, and it was hard to know if the tears were happy or sad ones. It didn't really matter. They were probably a mixture of both. Shall we go see Granny for a cup of tea? Said Mom. Yes, said Ben. That would be nice. And me and your dad have been talking, said Mom, taking her son's hand in hers. I found the plumbing magazines. But, said Ben, it's all right, continue Mom. You don't have to be embarrassed. If that's your dream, go for it. Really? Said Ben. Yes, chimed in Dad. We just want you to be happy. Only, continued Mom. Me and your dad think if the plumbing doesn't work out as a career, it's very important for you to have something to fall back on. Fall back on? Asked Ben. He really didn't understand his parents at the best of times, let alone now. Yes, said Dad, and we know ballroom dancing isn't your thing. No, agreed Ben, relieved. So how do you feel about ice dancing? Asked Mom. Ben stared at her. For a long moment, Mom just looked straight back at him. Then finally her face cracked, and she burst out laughing. And then Dad was laughing too, and even though there were tears still on his face, Ben couldn't help joining in. And that's the end of chapter 32.